Yeah.
Give me a thumbs up when you're ready to go. We are excited to get things kicked off.
Yep, just started recording.
Fantastic. Welcome everyone to our regularly scheduled meeting around SBOM for the energy sector. We're really excited today because this is going to be the first day that we really get a chance for everyone to roll up their sleeves and start the work and start the active brainstorming session. So most of today's call is going to be spent doing that. And Ginger and her team will tell us a little more about those tools. And we have a whole bunch of fallbacks to make sure everyone can participate. But before we do, I just wanted to share a very quick announcement that for those of you who've been following along the broader SBOM effort, which is there's an executive order that has said, among other things, the government needs to define what the minimum elements of SBOM are. And so if you and your organization feel like you've been thinking about this long enough to have some good opinions, there is a request for comments that is now public, that is due June 17th or before, and I'll paste the link to that in the chat. So I just wanted to let folks know if they would like to share their views on what should count towards the minimum elements of SBOM. You can now do so in a formal, on-the-record way. You can also reach out to me if you would prefer to say things but not have it be formally and publicly on the record. So that's the core aspect that I wanted to start off with the announcement side of things. Ginger, do you want to talk a little bit and make sure folks are on the same page for the general logistics?
Sure. I have a couple of logistical announcements that I wanted to provide. First, I have signed many of you up, hopefully willingly, into a Google group that is focused on this energy proof of concept for SBOMs. There is information in each email that comes through the Google group on how to unsubscribe in case I mistakenly added you and you do not wish to be part of that. That email address is where we will be sending meeting announcements, news updates, and various things that the POC is interested in. And you all can communicate around or through the Google group. We are moderating it for now until we get our rhythm so that we understand how much communication we'd like to have. But please feel free to use that resource as you need it. I provided through that Google group an email before this meeting that had a couple of things in it that I wanted to bring your attention to. The first was the charter that we discussed in our last meeting. And I'm still looking for any comments or red lines or thoughts that you have on that. So that email came from Virginia Wright. If you find that, feel free to send me copious red line comments on the charter. I'm very open to that. If you just have a few things that you'd like us to think about, feel free to put them in the chat right now, and we'll harvest those and apply those to the document if that's the best use of your time. Also in that email, again, from Virginia Wright, we offered an opportunity for a play-at-home version of the exercise that we're going to do this morning. So this morning we are going to use an application called Mural, which is excellent at group brainstorming, to dive a little bit deeper than the focus of the charter into tasks that we would like to perform together, training that we would like, gaps that we've identified. And you're going to have an opportunity to both add your ideas for what we should do together, as well as at the end of our brainstorming to help prioritize what you see and actually vote on what you feel would be the most important for us to do together. This is a web-based tool, and I have Katie Baker from Nextsite who's going to describe that to us. But before I turn it over to Katie, not everyone has a corporate setup that allows them to access this website or make use of this tool. So in the email that I provided yesterday, I provided a PDF version of the Mural board as it exists now. If you would like to use the sticky note function of Adobe Reader, you can add your own comments, and if you will send them back, either direct reply to me or to the group mailbox, I'll find those and we will put those into our mural. So just in case, if you access the mural board and you're having trouble, do not despair. You can use the PDF version. If you find in our meeting today that you can't access the mural version, but you cannot find the PDF, let us know via chat and we will get you a copy. So that's what I have for the boring logistical things. Katie, I'd like to turn it over to you and have you walk us through the mural exercise that we're going to do together with brainstorming.
Perfect. Thank you, Ginger. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the link for the mural board into the chat here in case anyone was not able to find it in their inbox. So you should be able to see that now and join. So looking at this board, you'll see the goals and instructions for this activity in the top left-hand corner, as well as the scoping considerations from the charter, which are listed out for you to keep in mind as you look at this activity. You'll see that we've pre-populated some ideas in each of these 7 columns for you to look at. So in order to provide feedback, you can right-click on each of these and add a comment if you want to second that or build onto the idea. Or if you have something completely novel that you feel was not already captured, you can double-click and add your own sticky note here. You can also add a comment with your name if you would like to provide attribution, although that is not a requirement. Once we've completed this brainstorming session, we will move into a voting session, which will give you 7 votes where you can click on one item from each of these sections for your top priority. Ginger, would you like to speak a little bit more to the goals and instructions?
Sure, I can. And while I'm doing that, Katie, do you mind sharing the screen with the mural on it for the folks that are here that may not have transitioned over yet, so that they can see all the mouse cursors moving together? That's one of the things I love about that tool.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So what we tried to do in the design of this particular mural board is to just go a step below what you found in the charter. We wanted to get your thoughts about the tasks we should perform together. And this is all of us together as full stakeholders, as well as for those who would like to perform as part of an SBOM exchange and actually exchange potentially sensitive or intellectually property protected information, the tasks that you would like to perform and what you think should be done as a part of that. Then we have a column on the gaps that we should address together. What are the things that are challenging for the implementation of software bills of materials in the energy sector that if we had the right ideas or technology or instruction or some solution that would make things easier? Then we have a list of the use cases that we would like to explore together for SBOM consumers, people who are taking in software bills of materials. And in the lower part, what are the use cases pertinent to producers of software bills of materials? And by the way, if you find something that is misfiled, please feel free to move it around. That's part of the virtue of this platform, is nothing is stuck. And you can add or move things as you need to. There's a column that asks what topics we should provide training on, as well as where we want to have hands-on opportunities. And finally, where should we put reports, publications, and written products out that are the result of our collaboration together? Those have been very foundational in other proofs of concept, that they have these reports and guidance that we're able to follow. So certainly we may like to generate some of those of our own. And once we finish getting all of your feedback, we will take this, process it, and in either our next meeting or the meeting after, we'll present this back to you and let you know what those highlighted ideas are. And I just want to take a quick look in the chat to see if there are any questions. I don't see any at this point, except I do see one from Matt Irwin who did not receive the email. I'll take care of that offline, but Matt, if you can click on the link that Katie provided, please go ahead and access the mural board and get started brainstorming with us.
So we're going to be keeping this bridge open to do some coordination, but right now we're going to give you the blessed value of some quiet time as we look through this. And I'm really excited to see some of the great ideas that are already being put on this board. As Katie mentioned, when we, after we've had a chance to sort of really digest and do some brainstorming, then we'll have a chance to vote. So this is, what we're trying to do overall is make sure that we can capture the diversity of interest and needs, but still come up with some pretty concrete things to aim for. All of the work we've done to this point has been to say, hey, what's the big picture? How should we structure it? This is really the chance to start to go from SBOM's important, we need to do it, to, well, what's the it we're going to do? And in what order? What are the priorities?
And once again, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so just a reminder on utilizing the tool while everyone can see my screen. Double click where you want your sticky note to be placed, and it'll come right into the right place. If you accidentally place one, you can click on it and hit backspace to leave a comment. Right click and select Add Comment from your list. And that should be everything you need to know. And you can also resize using the arrows. And with that, I am going to end my screen share and give you your silence back.
If folks are still having some trouble using the tool, feel free to chime in the chat and we can try to help problem solve. Troubleshoot. Oh, that's a fun question, Roger. Is there a way that we can draw links between boxes?
Yes, there is. So if you click on Shapes and Connectors on the far left-hand side of the screen in this black column, then you can click on one of these connectors to add and then drag either end to spread it across where you want it to be.
Feel free to pick your own color also. Why not make your idea pop? So for the folks who have joined in the last minute or two, we are currently engaged in a collaborative decentralized brainstorming on the Mural app. And I'll paste that link back into the chat in case there is anyone who hasn't gotten it recently.
And I'll tag on to Alan's comment. If you are here, you try the link and you can't access it, or you find that you would prefer to work offline, please let us know and we'll provide a PDF version of the board to you so that you can add your comments, and we'll take those as offline submissions.
Actually feels slightly more efficient than the in-person sticky note brainstorming model because so many people can see in real time what each other are doing.
And you're not shoving each other away from the butcher paper, and you don't have that feeling that someone's looking over your shoulder saying, what is that person doing?
I mean, I kind of like the shoving people out of the wayside, but I'm an aggressive brainstormer. My problem is my handwriting is terrible and illegible. Jamie, let me see if we have your email that we can send that to you.
Alan and Jamie, I've got that.
Great, thank you. Once I've got the zoom in and out necessary, it's a lot easier to use this. So Erwin's reporting, Matthew's reporting some challenges using the app. And so again, one thing we can do is we can send you the PDF to do it offline, and we can integrate your information. And another approach is if there's a particular area or bucket that you're excited about, if you enter it in the chat, we can add that for you. Well, there are some challenges of using this. I just like someone asked a very philosophical question: should SBOM small cutoff as you were doing this? These are solid questions, solid considerations.
If you start to run out of ideas to populate on your own, please take the additional time to read through the sticky notes that others have been adding. It looks like we have a lot of ideas on this board, so I want to make sure that you've read through them when we get into the voting session.
Yeah, I've got a lot of ideas on what I want in each of these. I also just like the fact that someone referred to a non-artisanal SBOM, which obviously implies the existence of artisanal SBOMs, which make me think of friendly rural hippies selling them at farmers markets.
Someone on this call should claim that as a company name. Whoever gets there first wins, but that's an excellent company name.
Well, and there's the flip side. It's right. You could start in. You could have Industrial SBOM LLC. Not surprisingly, there are a lot of gaps in knowledge, which I think is fantastic. So this is exactly what we were hoping for, is to get this wonderful diversity of information. And even though we've tried to help each area and each bucket be as narrow as possible, they each cover a lot of ground. So we'll give it a minute or two more, and then we will start to dive into some of these. Does that sound good?
I'm noting that several folks have taken advantage of the comment function. So if you see a colored circle sitting on top of a sticky note, if you click on that circle, it will show you the comment that appends to that sticky note. So as you do your walkthrough and look at things, make sure that you're looking at those comments.
Really enjoying seeing some of the connections, and reading the comments is really interesting as well. well, I remember being slightly worried that folks weren't going to want to use this tool or weren't going to have some ideas. And I think we certainly have a embarrassment of riches. And again, one of our key challenges now is going to be to narrow things down. And so hopefully that we'll do that in a little bit, but folks are still engaging and commenting and reading. So I don't want to stymie anyone. Please do continue to pile on both new ideas and comments on existing ideas. And then we'll sort of move towards the concentration and the selection side of things. It'll obviously take a while to read each of these as well.
I will be opening the voting session in about 10 minutes here. So unless you have other pressing ideas to add, please do take advantage of this time to read through the ideas of others. Once this voting session is open, you will get to pick your one highest priority from each section. I know that's a big ask with all of these ideas that have been put out. So go ahead and start thinking about that now so that you'll be prepared to place that vote. For those of you who can't access the mural and aren't able to see what's been added, I will be sending an updated version of this as a PDF out to Ginger, who will distribute this to our whole distribution list. And that way you can look at those and contribute as well.
And also, since you can only vote once, but you can comment as many times as you want. And so it's your chance to sort of weigh in with a yes and. Right? +1, we know if you just say +1, we'll know you're cheating. But if you say, hey, this is a good idea, and here's a way of refining it, that's also going to be very helpful. So we have a question about why we're trying to do the voting process. So Ginger, Katie, do you want to sort of talk a little about how we're trying to narrow down from all of these great ideas to some more concentrated approaches?
Sure, I'll start and then have Katie join in. So everything that I've seen is an interesting idea that begets lots of potential question and activity. But some of the items, just like if you're scanning eBay, may be for each one of you do it now items. And so our hope was through the voting to allow each person who is putting ideas in to also express a preference about which of these ideas to you are the ones that we must do. So Katie, would you like to talk about how voting is going to work?
Of course. So once the voting session begins, you will be locked into the voting feature. So you will not be able to add in any new ideas to this board. And you'll see at the top of your screen how many votes you have left. So again, we're giving you 7 votes. Ideally, you can place 1 vote on your highest priority idea in each of these sections below. So like Ginger said, this gives us an idea of where we have the most consensus and what the highest priorities are for the larger group to help us narrow this down moving forward. The voting, since there are so many ideas, I can leave this voting open past the end of the meeting. Please try to get your votes in during the 10 minutes remaining once the session starts. But if you do need more time to read through, I'm happy to leave this board open for a little longer to ensure that you can thoughtfully place those votes.
And I'll also add to this, once we have completed this activity today, although I love the chaotic mural interface, I promise to you, you will not be staring at the sticky notes on the virtual butcher paper forever. We will take your ideas and process them into some sort of document form, whether that's a list of bullets sorted by topic. We may do some processing to bring like ideas together, but you'll have a chance to review this again in another form. And especially for those who are playing the at-home game and putting their ideas in on the PDF, that will give us a chance to bring your thoughts into the whole.
I do see activity slowing down, so I'm going to go ahead and start this voting session in about 1 minute here. If you have items that you want to vote on, please do so. You'll see this start soon. If you are in the process of leaving a comment or writing a sticky note now, please wrap that up so that you're not cut off when the voting session begins. So I'm going to give this just 1 minute to make sure that everyone is able to wrap up what they're working on now. And to respond to Roger's comment, we will be doing quite a bit of synthesis and analysis on the back end here. This voting is just to, again, give us a very, very preliminary sense of what people think are high priorities. This is not going to be set in stone. It's a very, very low pressure opportunity to vote.
No, thank you. It's a great point, right? The goal here, right, is the brainstorming is the breadth first search, and we've seen comments to help turn that into a little bit of a depth for those who are coming from old school algorithmic thinking. And then this allows us to sort of do a little bit of preliminary narrowing and pruning, or I guess the opposite, prioritizing. Okay, we know more folks are interested in this side versus this side. And that way we'll be able to prioritize. The one thing that we can see from this brainstorming exercise is how much, how much interest this is in the number of directions that we can take this. And so there has to be a first few steps. And what we want to do is be able to sort of suggest, here are the first few steps we can take, as well as begin to sketch out what a roadmap might look like. Ultimately, the work, whatever we choose, is going to be done by you. Right? Ginger and her team and Tom are here to help coordinate and facilitate. And there are lots of great SBOM resources in the broader community, including the existing NTI working groups and other approaches. But if we really want to drill into how can this meet the needs of the energy community, improving overall security and resiliency, bringing together both the manufacturing and the asset owner side of things. That's you guys. And we're going to need to drill down on that because we can't ask you to do everything all at once. I've tried. Didn't work.
I have now opened the voting session. You should have seen a pop-up card with instructions on the board. So once again, you'll see at the top, once you hit begin voting, how many votes you have left. You can click on a sticky note to place your vote, and you can shift click to remove your vote. And place your vote on whichever idea you feel aligns most closely with something that's high priority. Once again, these will be synthesized. Nothing is set in stone.
Ellery has left the chat before I can acknowledge that this is the idea of Ginger and run by her INL team. So this is an area where we cannot take credit for it at NTIA. This is all the hard work of INL. Dick, it's only quiet because on this NTI call because I've promised Tom that I would let people actually work rather than blathering on to try to fill the silence.
Well, and for those that are still voting with only 7, it became higher pressure as it went along. So I can understand why it gets sort of quieter and quieter as you figure out where to put that last one.
And so we're going to be leaving the voting on. We'll circulate a link to this board so that folks who weren't on today have a chance to do that. And so Ginger, for our next meeting, which will be let's see if I can do the math, the 16th, which is to say, Tom, Ginger, and I will have sort of tried to take all of this incredible brainstorm and put a little bit of structure to it, and that's where your votes come in. So really what we want to do for the next meeting is we're going to propose almost a tentative set of first steps. And then we can talk about that as a community. Ginger, Tom, things to add?
Just a reminder, if you have thoughts on the charter, please give those to me in chat or respond by email. If you don't have the charter, please feel free to send an email and ask, and I would love to provide it to you. I know everybody's as excited about project management documents as I am, but that's one thing we're looking to do. And I have signed up most of you to a Google group. If you do not think you are signed up to that group, again, please contact us and we'll make sure that we've got you correctly signed up.
And I will offer the one last reminder because it is relevant to some of the questions, especially Roger's in the chat. This is not directly related to the multi-stakeholder work that NTI and DOE are partnering on. But it is part of the executive order, which is defining the minimum elements of an SBOM for the US government in particular. That is growing out of Executive Order 14028. And there is a request for comments, and I have put that link in the chat again.
And before Ginger moves into her closing remarks, I will be leaving voting open for an additional 15 minutes after this call to accommodate those who are still voting. And then I will leave the mural up until close of business today if you want to add any additional comments on people's existing sticky notes. After that, I will be locking the board down so we can begin processing. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. We appreciate you running this. It looks smooth from this end, which means that an awful lot of work went into getting this together behind the scenes. So thank you.
I'm seeing some ideas in the chat, and if no one has any objection, I will translate those into sticky notes as part of our collection so that we can include those in the document. We're going to close out our meeting shortly, but please feel free to continue voting. I think there are several emails that have a copy of a link to the site. We will shortly provide a PDF that will let you look upon your great work. I encourage you, print it out on a plotter, hang it up on your wall. This is a thing of beauty. If that's not how you want to fly, we will transcribe the ideas, try to put them into buckets, and again, assemble related ideas, and thank all of you who did the artwork that helped us do that so that you've established the relationships. And we'll have that document ready for our next meeting just to talk through some of these. In going through them, some of them I think may be things that both our proof of concept group wants to do, but may also be things that we work with the larger NTIA multi-stakeholder community on. And we'll try to at least acknowledge those that may have both an energy sector focus, but may also, again, relate to that larger NTIA SBOM working group community. So just be aware that we'll do some annotation of that. I think that concluded the scope that we have for today. So as fun as it would be to keep the day going, connected in this way and able to talk to each other, I'm going to go ahead and close out our official meeting, but leave you the mural board to look at. And if there are any final comments, please send them to the chat.
Thank you all for rolling up your sleeves. Right, this sort of highlights all the fun work that we have in front of us. So thanks everyone for joining.